I'm Allison Devereaux. Coming up on Main Street today, a Cape Breton band that describes their sound as lazy pop is releasing a new album on cassette tape. And the value of mentorship. The recipient of this year's Mi'kmaq Scholarship tells us who influenced her dream to become a police officer. Those stories coming up on Main Street. Good afternoon and welcome to Main Street. I'm Allison Devereaux. Coming up in the next hour, what's old is new again. A band from Cape Breton is having success releasing a single on cassette tape. And Broadcove Scottish Concert gets a bigger and better stage for its 61st anniversary. We will hear how the concert is honouring Indigenous and Acadian heritage. And later this hour, if you're someone who enjoys a cuppa in the afternoon, you'll want to stay tuned for our upcoming story about a new documentary on the origins of tea culture. This is Main Street on CBC Radio 1. Thanks for joining me. Well, a band from Cape Breton, whose members now live in Halifax, is using cassette tapes to distribute their new album. I know this must seem like a very archaic method of distribution, but it's actually gaining traction. So Strongboy is a four-piece rock band. Now they self-describe their sound as lazy pop. Alex Shepard is their bass player. Now he spoke with reporter Norma Jean McPhee.
That idea would have come from, we've kind of thrown it about, but that idea would have come from Josh by virtue of the label Human Sounds Records that we're on. They are a tape label, and this is something that is increasingly popping up now.
And why do you think that is?
They are, I think it's probably because they are cheap and quick to produce, because it is becoming, you tend to have to wait a very long time to have CDs mass-produced, and people are not really buying CDs very much anymore. Vinyl are incredibly expensive to produce, and you have to wait, this album wouldn't be coming out until 2019 or something like that if we wanted to wait that long. So I think that is coming back by virtue of, I think people just like to have a physical thing when they're buying something at shows. Like, we could just go with a download code or only have digital copies, but I know myself, I like to have something physical, and it's I think it's a nice format. It's a nice little pocket-sized thing, and I personally actually think that cassette tapes sound good. I like listening to cassettes. I find it similar to the reason people like vinyl. It sounds much warmer than just listening to an MP3 or something like that.
What are your hopes that people will buy them, with so many people not having, a lot of people don't even have CD players anymore, let alone tape decks? What have you been hearing from folks?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, like I said, it's almost more of, I think that there's lots of people that do listen to cassettes, but I think that another reason that people buy them is almost more like a souvenir than an actual thing to listen to, because I do know that almost everybody that buys a tape and is probably going to be listening to our music mostly online, or mostly they might buy a digital copy as well as the tape, or they get a digital copy with the tape, and it's that's the way that most people are going to be listening. Again, I think it's just kind of the especially with the people that we tend to play with and play to, I think that there's a certain kind of romantic aspect to actually having something that you can hold in your hand, and I think that people, again, aren't buying CDs anymore, so it made sense for us to get the tapes made. It was very cheap, and again, I think it's just almost to have the physical product. I don't think that many people are listening to the cassette, to be honest. I think that there's a few people that probably have tape decks that they listen to them in, but for the most part, people will buy the cassette just to have it and probably listen to us on their iPods or on their laptops.
How many did you get made?
I couldn't tell you exactly how many we got made. We ourselves received just 40, and we are only selling them at shows as of right now. But the Josh from Human Sounds, the tape label, he kept most of them, a lot more than that himself, and sells them through his label store, and he puts them in stores around Atlanta where he's based. And lately he's been, for some reason, there's been an incredible amount of interest in this particular label from Japan lately. So he sent a bunch of cassettes over to a cassette store in Japan, in Tokyo, where they're for sale. Yeah, most of them, we don't have many of them ourselves. We just kind of have them so that we can sell them at shows. But Josh handles most of the distribution of them.
Okay, that makes sense. So what do you think that there's cassette tapes of your bands being sold in Japan?
It's it's pretty weird, but it kind of makes perfect sense to us. I think I think that really how this has worked out makes it just kind of reaffirms a lot of what I've thought about how music is going, and that I don't take this as like I support local music, and I think it's very important for everybody to support local music, but it's not. There is no geography. There's no there's not so much attachment to place in music anymore. When we look at our Spotify, for example, we can look at like statistics from that and see where people are listening, and it's all over the place. And it's just because there's no. If you're just listening to a stream on YouTube like people are, there's no reason that music is going to come from closer to home. So it kind of makes perfect sense to us that people all over the place would be listening as opposed to just in Halifax. And that being said, it is super weird to have the first thing we've ever made in stores in Japan. That's pretty strange. I don't think we expected it, but it does make sense to me.
Very interesting. You're right, though, about the changing borders and geography and of music, the boundaries. There really isn't any anymore.
There isn't when it comes to actually listening to it. And that's the thing. It can be kind of difficult for us, I would say, because we can sell as many tapes in Japan, we can have people listening all over the world, but it becomes a lot more difficult and problematic when it comes down to, okay, the next step is to somehow get to those people and play, and that's a lot more difficult to figure out, obviously.
Yeah, I guess if it's difficult to get to Cape Breton from Halifax, Japan might be a whole other realm.
Yeah, that's a little while off, I think, but we're dreaming.
And that was Alex Shepard from the band Strongboy, speaking with Norma Jean McPhee. Now, their dreaming is paying off so far. The song Steady was picked up by a YouTuber who then posted the song on his channel, and within a few days it had close to 400,000 views, or listens is a more accurate description. We are going to get to that song in just a minute, but first we have Strongboy's distributor. His name is Josh Andrews. He's from Human Sounds Records. Alex mentioned him in the chat you heard there. Andrews is the driver behind these tapes, and he also spoke with Norma Jean McPhee.
The main reason is it's a lot cheaper than vinyl to produce, and there's a lot of people out there who enjoy owning something physically. So I started back in 2014, and the people making cassettes was not very popular. There were a few online, and some bigger artists would do it, but now in 2017 it's crazy the increase in cassettes. So it's really helped grow the artists, because when we used to, in 2014, we'd be selling like 25 cassettes, and now some of the artists sell hundreds of cassettes. So it's really cool to see how that changed. And I guess it goes with the nostalgia factor, because a lot of people who are buying them are people who grew up in the 90s and had the cassettes. So I think that's a big factor as well. But it's mostly just because I really enjoy physical media and owning the music I like. And I guess other people like buying that too. So.
And do most of these people that you've heard of have actual cassette players?
So I assume I do myself. I have a pretty large cassette collection, but some people, I think, just like some people buy records just because they like owning them, and some people will hang them on the wall. I think some people probably just buy the cassette so they can support the music, because it's hard these days, especially with Spotify and YouTube, to justify for a lot of people paying for digital music when they could just go get it for free. But a cassette is something that they own. They know that it's going to support the music, and on the side they get the digital files too. So it's a win and all. It's getting surprisingly more popular, and they're selling them at bigger stores too now, and it's really cool to see, especially Strongboy in particular, the amount of fans that I'm seeing from Asia and South Korea, Japan in particular. There's just so much support from Asia for these guys, and cassettes in Japan in particular are very popular. There's actually I think the world's only dedicated cassette shop in Japan, and we've sent them some of the tapes, and it's just really cool to see the international success that they've had, and the cassettes just going all over the world. So it's really cool to see.
And that was Josh Andrews, the owner of Human Sounds Records and the distributor of Strongboy. So, available on both cassette tape or online, here is Cape Breton's own Strongboy with Steady. And that is Strongboy with a song called Steady. You're listening to Main Street on CBC Radio 1. It is 4:23.